Today I have in front of me 4 different manual espresso machines, all of which are very affordable and all of which are fairly portable. I'm excited to go over today which ones produce the best espresso, which ones have the best features and convenience of it, and overall which ones I would choose for what type of scenario I am in. But before I want to do that, I just want to say thank you for tuning in to Kempin's Coffee Corner. I review a lot of different gear and stuff like that on the channel, so if you could please like and subscribe, that really helps me produce more content. And if you could please consider purchasing any of these using the affiliate links below. I make a slight commission at no extra charge to you, and that really helps fund this channel. And lastly, I have an Instagram page that's linked in the description. You can follow me there. So I want to start off by saying, like, this is a new area that I'm filming in, and I'd love to get your feedback on what you think of that. If you like the old one better or this one better, I'm just kind of trying to figure out a few things here. So on this side, I have the Auden portable espresso machine. It runs around $100. It has a lot of different features on it. Next to it, we have the Espresso Mirage Pro, I think. Mirage Pro, and it is about $110 as well. Then we have the Wakeiko Pico Presso right here, and that one is $130. And then finally we have the Flare Classic coming in at $165. So all of these range from $100 to $165. We're going to start over with the Auden portable espresso machine, and I do want to point out that both Auden and Espresso sent me both of these for an exchange of a review. They don't see this content, and I'm allowed to say whatever I want on it. And Auden did recently upgrade this machine to a more expensive one at $140, which I'm not able to get my hands on, but just so you know on that. So I think the Auden is one of the most unique portable espresso machines for a few features. The first one is you simply take this cap off at the top here, and you fill this part with water. And that can be room temperature water, cold water, and you click this power button on here and it will actually heat up the water in here and then automatically extract your shot into this plastic little cup, which has its pros and cons to it, and it's rechargeable by USB-C, which is the best way to charge things. And you have two options with this. When you take off this little cup and unscrew this bottom here, you will see what is on the inside, which is this simple little capsule looking thing. So this is your dispersion screen and this is your portafilter, if you will, and those simply go together after you put your beans in there and tamp, put it in there, screw it on, and it's good to go. You can also switch this, and this is the only machine to my knowledge of these 4 that can do this. You can switch this to a capsule pod machine as well if you're into that kind of a thing. The downside to this machine is you can only fit about 10 grams into this basket. There's no included funnel, so you kind of have to use this scoop, and that fits at least on it, so you can flip it directly into and kind of shake it and level it, and then flip it over and tamp, and it's a fairly decent fit for a plastic tamper, but it is a plastic tamper. With this comes a carrying case, which looks something like this depending on the one that you get, and flip it open and it has a place to store the pod capsule or the espresso capsule, pre-ground capsule, whatever you want to call it, and then as well as 4 pods. It comes with a little bag that says Auden in there, and it comes with a brush as well. I wouldn't really use this carrying case because I don't use pods and it takes up twice the amount of space, but this little bag is nice and included, so it simply is about that big, a little bit bigger than a portable hand grinder, an average portable hand grinder, and slips in the bag and you can throw it in your backpack. And all you need is pre-ground coffee or a grinder to make this work, or a capsule to make this work, and water from any source that you can get it. And you don't have to have a kettle while traveling, which is one of the things that I find the biggest complaint that I have in espresso. This is the Espresso, and it has this nice little built-in stand that you simply flip out the feet like so, and then it sits on this stand. This is a little rubberized cup that it has with it. The included scoop, and I think this is the included tamper. It didn't really specify well in the instructions on that, but that's all you get for that. And you have this portafilter here, and it's very unique. Sorry, it's a little dirty here because I use my coffee equipment. So it has this basket here, which is unique. It's not a pressurized basket. You simply can push this bottom piece in there, and that will push out the puck, making the cleanup on this a little bit easier than others. So it's not a bottomless portafilter, and it's spouted, and you just put that in there, screw it on, take off this top part here. This has a little spring mechanism here so you can pump the water. So you fill this up with water and then put it on the stand, screw that on, pump, and out comes your espresso into your cup. This can kind of fit in a Kaya Lunar underneath of it, but you have to put it sideways a little bit. Moving on from that, like I said, this one's about $110-ish, somewhere in there. This is the Wakeiko Pico Presso, which is fairly common now for portable espresso. It has a little pump action here, so you just simply turn that and that unlocks. And I am missing one piece on this because I can't find it in my coffee bar filled with a bunch of random things that kind of go all over the place, to be honest. But you have a little rubberized piece to kind of help the water flow, your little dispersion screen that goes on top of your grounds, and your portafilter. The portafilter on this one is incredibly nice. You can fit, I believe, 51 millimeter IMS basket in there. If you want to switch that out, you can. But a nice sized basket and a nice little metal piece to kind of put it in. It's got this little rubberized piece here to make it a spouted portafilter and allow it to come out in one stream. Or you can simply pop that out and use it as a bottomless portafilter, which works out fairly well. And it also does come up with a little rubberized piece that goes on top of that. So in a sense, you can set it on that piece to catch the rest of the drips when you're done making your espresso. Screw that on there. Simply take this top piece off, fill it with water, push that on there, press it about 10 times or so, allow it to pre-infuse. Oops, I got a towel caught in there. And then you will simply brew your espresso by simply pumping this sideways like that, and you're good to go on that. With this came a couple accessories. It came with this little funnel that fits perfectly on top of the basket, and it came with this little tamper that also fits perfectly on the basket. And the tamper is nice because it's pretty easy to get a level tamp when you simply take your palm and press it on the top here, and it fits pretty well and easy. My main problem with this tamper is there's a little edge here, and that edge gets coffee grounds on it like crazy, and it bothers me a lot. So that's one of my main flaws with this. And it also came with a WDT tool, which is a Weiss distribution technique, which is basically stirring of the grounds and breaking up the clumps. And lastly, it came with a little case for it that can fold up. Everything stores inside of it. The tamper stores inside this top part, the WDT tool and the funnel all stores together to make it fit in this one case. You do need a grinder or pre-ground coffee, and you do need a kettle to make this work wherever you are. Lastly, moving on to the one that I've had the longest and the most expensive one, coming in at $165, is the Flare Classic. You can probably find these used now. There's a lot of them out there. And this one holds, oh, I forgot to mention, you can fit a full 18 grams in both the Espresso and the Pico Presso. So the Flare, this is going to change a little bit. This is one of the original models. It's fairly older. A couple of things have changed, colors, stuff like that. Anyway, you get a tamper of some sort. I think it's a plastic tamper, not the metal one, and a funnel, your brew head. Your brew head has a 2-in-1 bottomless portafilter. I apologize in advance if this is wrong, and I don't take off that bottomless portafilter very often, so it's kind of stuck on there. Anyway, this pops off, and you have a nice 2-in-1 dirty bottomless portafilter because it's not used a lot and sits on my counter. Just because I have a lot of machines, not because it's bad. And you have your whole portafilter here and a dispersion screen. This dispersion screen is nicer now than the one that I have. So you fill it up with grounds. You can fit about 16 roughly in there, give or take. Put your funnel on there, makes it nice and easy. And it has a little piston. So what you do is you put your grounds in there, throw your grounds in there, tamp, of course, put your dispersion screen on, shove that in the bottom there, fill this chamber with water, put on the piston, put it on the brew head of the Flare, and then you'll simply take this lever and you'll push down, and out comes your espresso. This machine is the largest of them. It does come in half here, so this base screws onto each other, and you can take off the entire top half of it, and it comes and fits inside this little travel case. You can go cheaper with the Flare, and you can pick up something called the Flare Neo, which has a pressurized basket. And pressurized basically means that the mechanism on the inside of the machine allows you to use pre-ground coffee and not have to dial in your coffee. It won't allow water to flow out of the group head until out of the brew head until a certain pressure has been achieved. So it will kind of compensate for the lack of grind quality that you have. So that's an option with that, and it's a little cheaper, and then you can simply just swap out one little piece for about $25 and you'll have yourself the Flair Classic. So you could get it a little bit cheaper if you wanted or something along the lines of that. But anyway, that is what it is. I extensively brewed with all of these. I did my best to dial them in based off of the machine and tried to do it as similar as possible. I used a DF83 flat burr grinder, which is known as one of the best grinders that you can have at your home. There's a link for the description of that in there as well. So I brewed all of these a lot over months and months of time and tried to give you my best of what's convenient to use, what's the usability of it, because if you're using this regularly, you want it to be convenient, you want it to be easy to use. What upgradable features it has, so can you make it better and have it go higher as you learn with Espresso and all the features of it. So I want to start with the convenient features of all of these machines and which one kind of does better. So I'm going to rank them on features, and some of them are better for other reasons. For one, for best features out of all of these machines, I would give it to the Auden portable espresso machine. The reason for that is to have a machine that's just this size that heats up the water for you. It heats it up about 4 times before you need to recharge it by USB-C. So when you're traveling, you'll most likely probably already have a USB-C cable. If you have an Android phone, typically those use it. If you have a Mac, you can use a USB-C cable to charge your Mac or your iPad. Not your iPhone, unfortunately, we'll get there one day. But USB-C cables are pretty common nowadays. It does come with one. So you can simply charge this machine and you're good to go with it. And I find it really convenient where if you fill it up with grounds ready to go, and just throw it in your backpack, you can brew whenever you're ready. Just simply find water from a water bottle, pour it in there, heat it up, you're good to go, and it makes a decent shot of espresso. Not the best in the world. My negative side to it is the fact that it only holds 10 grams, so it's a pretty small dose of it, and you have to manually stop the machine if you want to get the correct ratio of like a 1:2 or something like that, or it'll automatically brew longer until it's out of water. I never have used the capsule piece on there. I just have never used capsules really in a long time, and I would prefer not to. It is nice that for the low price of like $110, you do get this nice travel case, and most importantly, you get this nice little bag that it slips in. The tamper, at least it fits, and it does an okay job. But overall, convenient-wise, out of everything, this is probably my favorite. Coming in second place for my favorite out of convenience would be the Wakeiko Pico Presso. They did a very, very good job of fitting everything in just this tiny little package in this tiny little case. It's probably half the size of the Auden, which this makes really great espresso, and it's very, very convenient to bring. You just have to figure out your kettle, which I use an immersion heater and throw it in a steaming pitcher, and that usually does the trick, but it is a little bit inconvenient in comparison to how easy the Auden is to use. My third favorite in terms of travel would probably be the Staresso. It's probably the next easiest to travel simply because of the size. It does a good job. It includes the cup. It includes everything you need. Outside of it doesn't really have a real tamper in there, so you kind of have to just go like that, and the user manual doesn't tell you if you're supposed to tamper or not, but I always have. And then Flair, it's just simply bigger, but you can fit it in a backpack, and I have traveled with this in my backpack on an airplane, and it does a good job, and it nice fits in the counter. But if you're like camping or going somewhere small, it's a little bit more pieces to kind of put together and takes up more space, so that is what it is. When it comes to upgradability, the Flair is by far the best because Flair has been around for, I want to say 6 years now, maybe. I could be off on that, 6-7 years. And it has some nice features, which I'll show you here in just a bit. All right, I'm back. One of the things with the Flair is you can upgrade the tamper, like I said, to that stainless steel one. And you can also upgrade it to a pressure gauge, which allows you to control the pressure of your machine, knowing exactly how long you're pre-infusing for, of what pressure going, making sure you're hitting 6 to 9 bars, and control that however you want. You can go up to 6 bars and slowly ramp up to 9 and back down. However you want to do it, it gives you that instant feedback that no other machine has. So this one kind of grows with you more than any other machine. If you're not traveling a ton and just occasionally, this fits nicely and is the best to use on a countertop. And like if I were using one every single day, I would pick the Flare. However, Wakeiko has recently in one of their events shown that they are making a stand for the Wakeiko and a pressure gauge for the Wakeiko. I don't know how much those are going to cost, but one of the nice things about that is this is an incredible machine, but it does kind of get a little wobbly when you're doing that, when you're pressing it and you have no idea what pressure you are getting with it. So convenience-wise, traveling, I would almost pick the Alden every single way to go, and then next I would choose the Wakeiko. And then the Espresso and Flare would be down there below that. When it comes to the build quality of it, I would choose the Wakeiko as the best build quality. Best build quality because you can change, like it has a nice, like it feels like a real basket and you can change it to an IMS basket. It feels really solid, well built. There are plastic pieces on it, but all the plastic feels really robust and durable. The Flare would be, it would also be up there with the Flare, but like every single little detail on this, like the funnel seems solid like aluminum. The Flare has some like a plastic funnel, so it just like it feels like they just did a very, very good job, and it feels like good quality when I use it. And the Flare does too as well. So these are a close comparison. The Alden feels the third in the best of built quality. It's all plastic when you hold it. The cup is super cheap. Plastic pieces everywhere, but it still feels like a hefty, durable piece of plastic. Lastly, the last one is the Espresso. I feel like is the least in quality. It feels really plastic, flimsy. The basket on the inside kind of bent the first couple times I used this because I choked the machine a little bit and ground too fine. This feels like it's going to break every single time I push it, even though it's not. The body of itself feels well, and this basket holder feels well, portafilter holder feels well. The stand does feel like I'm going to break it when I constantly putting the force on it. It flexes and it moves quite a bit, and the cup is just okay, but the rubber feels like it's already loosening up, and I've only had it for a month or so. And it doesn't include a tamper or anything nice like that. It just seems like they really cut corners on the cost of that one in comparison to all the other three of these, which is crazy because, well, it does make a difference. Like when you're looking at the Espresso, you're saving 30 bucks from the Pico Presso or 20 bucks from the Pico Presso, and it shows in that. And when it comes to the Flare is $65 more or $55 more than the Espresso, and that shows, and that's kind of an annoying thing for me. So when it comes to taste and quality of them, all of these do a good job. I find the Espresso one of the hardest ones to dial in for some reason. I just felt like it took forever for me to get a good shot out of it, but once I did, I was pretty happy with it and I would drink it easily, of course, when you pair with a good grinder. The Alden I was shocked with. When they reached out to me to review one, I honestly thought I was gonna hate it. I was like, there's no way that this can be good. I was shocked, and it does do a good job. If you use a scale and you really dial that in that way and make sure you have the correct ratio coming out to your preference, you'll be able to get a good shot out of it. You do lack all control on it, even in comparison to any of these other machines. They all have a lever or at least like a pump mechanism here, which allows you to pre-infuse. It allows you to kind of slowly ramp up in pressure. It gives you a little bit more control, even though you're in the unknown and you don't know what that control is because there's no gauge. The Espresso, you click a button and it goes for you, and that is super convenient and super nice, and that's something that it should be really encouraged for. That one is super well. I'm just gonna go ahead and take this Espresso, and I'm gonna say out of the machine options, this would not be my go-to. So this one's just gonna be completely out for the rest of the review. I'm gonna put it on the counter behind me, and if you have one, I wouldn't necessarily recommend upgrading from it to one of these other machines, but if you're going out and purchasing a new one, I would look otherwards toward the Espresso. You can change the basket and put the one from IMS or the one from Wakeiko in there, but you have to buy all these other things for it to make it really worthwhile, in my opinion. If I were to purchase one of these machines, if I did not have a home machine and I wanted to brew at home, I would choose the Flare. The reason for that is because this feels the most stable. It gives you a lot of control on it. It looks nice on your countertop and it functions well while on a countertop, but you can also occasionally travel with it, especially if you're driving somewhere with a car. It has a nice case, you can just throw it in there. When you're flying with it and you're doing a carry-on, it's a little bit harder because it does take up some more space. But if I didn't have a machine at home, I would look toward getting a flare. I've loved flare in the past, and I've used it a lot of the time in my journey. If I already had a machine at home, or I wasn't planning on using it at home, or I had to take it out of a cabinet every single morning to use it, I would probably choose the Wakeiko. I would do that because it makes incredible espresso and it's super convenient and portable. And the last one I would choose would be the Auden, simply just because the quality of espresso that comes out of it is good, but not as good as the other two. So the worst in quality, all of these are very drinkable, good shots of espresso. I would rank it as number 4 as the Staresso in quality. At least in my experience, some other people might differ. I got the Staresso solely because somebody on this channel said it's better than the Wakeiko, and you should review that instead. In my findings, I haven't found a way that it is better than the Wakeiko outside of the stability because it has a stand. That is the only benefit over the Wakeiko. Next, I would choose the Auden for quality of espresso, and then I would choose the Flare, and first place I would give it to the Wakeiko. It just seems like it tastes better and I get good consistent shots. However, if I was comparing the Wakeiko to the Flare with the pressure gauge, I would choose the Flare with the pressure gauge hands down every single time in quality of espresso, because you get that control that you want to really help you dial in a coffee. If you have the wrong grind setting, you can compensate with the pressure that you're putting on to make sure you're still getting a good time when you're brewing your shot. So hopefully that helps a little bit, but I would probably pick, if you're exclusively traveling, you want something just to go, I would choose the Auden because of the convenience and the fact that it has a kettle built in and it does seem well built. If you are traveling, you want a little bit more control, a little bit better results, do a bigger dose of coffee, I would choose the Wakeiko if you have a way to heat up water wherever you're at. And finally, if you're looking for something to brew with at home but also travel with, it's the Flare. So it's kind of where you're at on things, but my favorite out of all the machines, and I don't own the Flare, I'm borrowing it from a friend. I have owned it in the past, and the other 3 I own, I'm getting rid of the Staresso, and the Pico Presso is a questionable one just because it does have that heat up function, but the Wakeiko is going to stay around my house and in my bag for quite a while. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any questions, I would love to hear about those in the comments. If you agree or disagree with me, feel free to tell me. I love your feedback on everything from lighting, audio, visuals, and just overall production of this video. Feel free to help me out on that. Please be nice. I am doing this for free. For the most part, you are getting all this content for free. You don't have to pay for this, and I spent a lot of time and effort and money into making these reviews because all these things cost money, from the camera to the second camera to the microphone to the lights and to the machines, and even simply just this table that I'm using. So I would love for you to continue to help me out by just simply using the affiliate links. And if you are watching videos, including mine or somebody else's, and you find it helpful, please like and subscribe. Like, that helps YouTubers out more than you can imagine. So thank you so much for watching, and I would love to hear from you in the comments below.